Hey guys, what's going on? So I'm back. So as we were talking about Jai Lovi's book on essays, what I think she was trying to do was play her role in society. So as I was reading this book just showed me a lot of problems. It talked about a lot of the issues of the world, like I said before. And to me, it's what it meant to Ajayi was how she wanted to use all these problems and all of this hate that she experienced in her life in a way to affect people of the world. She wanted to educate the readers. She wanted to tell everyone, oh, this is happening in our world, and what we need to do is we need to stop this right now. Ajayi is able to do this in many ways. She uses experience from her past life. She uses real life examples which occur and are in the news or in our papers. Um, she's also brought another way to show the prevention of these things. Overall, in my opinion, this book was very entertaining, yet very hard to understand at certain points. There were many points where I didn't really comprehend or evaluate to my extent. Now that we're coming back to the details, in my opinion, Ajayi's book was a way to educate the readers. Not only educate all society, but it was her way of impacting the world. When she grew up and she experienced everything and she felt the hate and discrimination and the love from her parents, she knew that she had to make this book in order to make a change in society, in order to educate the readers, in order to know what to do and what not to do in certain points. It was her way of validating her voice. In another way, she was able to voice out her points in where she disagreed. An example for that would be the feminists. She was angry that they couldn't push the further little extent in order to help all other minorities in the world. Yes, they helped white feminists who are considered superior to the world because of white privilege, but they weren't able to help for those women who were lesbians and who are black and who are Indian and are considered minorities in the world and are judged for that. So for the first point, I'm just gonna have it here on the screen so it's easy for you guys to read. This point to me shows how Ajayi's writing style, she was able to voice out her own opinion in this statement. In this part of the book, she was able to show what she wanted, what did happen in the past and how it affected her, and through her writing style and her voice, she was able to show emotion. As I was reading this part, it really affected me. Made me think of my mom, my sister, and maybe other like opportunities where they faced this discrimination of being a woman in this world. We should always recognize everyone around us and any of those issues that do happen around us and speak out and voice out. And what she was trying to prove was that if only those feminists were able to push and voice out and not stop themselves from just helping themselves, there could have been a way bigger difference in the world. Not only that, but Ajayi's way of explaining this with her emotions and her way of writing, she was able to educate the readers on how to make a bigger change. We can become these feminists. Yes, even as a dude, I can do that. Even as a member of society, even as a member of high school, I can do that. I can make a difference in my place. If I'm being completely honest, to me, this book did get very boring at times, but what it did help me do was understand the do's and don'ts of society. The do's and don'ts of what we should do in front of certain people, how we should act, or how we shouldn't act just because there's a certain individual around us, whether they're gay, they're a woman, or they're black, etc. But it affected me as a person because it made me realize the bigger picture of this world. Hey guys. So another thing that I realized was the way Ajayi wrote and her writing style, including all of the different aspects that she uses with the MODs, examples, and whatnot. She's able to bring a lot of credibility along with personal experiences which help do define that credibility. This book alone has a global significance on the world, on the readers, on me, just alone. And I feel that reading this just gave me a certain aspect I should have on the world. How I should look at all these people, minorities, people who are struggling, how to help these people who are struggling. I remember this one quotation from her book, and girls wear pink and boys wear blue, and women cook and men fix things, and women are emotional and men should never cry, and women get PMS so they should not lead companies. They're prevailing attitudes that show how basic we are with these gender binaries we enforce. These so-called gender binarities that she focused on and she wrote about in her book are stereotypes that happen every single day. As of right now, I'm wearing a blue jacket. If I was a girl, everyone would be thinking I'm wearing a pink jacket, you know, and that I don't cry or that I don't show my emotions because I'm a man. But the truth is, everyone does. We're all human, right? And we all do, especially what we feel is best for us. Hey guys, so right now I'm currently on the way to a dog park, taking Odin out. Odin, come say hi. He's really lazy, just like moving around a lot. But anyways, taking him to Williams Park. You know how it'd be. Nice afternoon today. Man, I hope this camera doesn't fall while I'm driving. Oh, I'm just recording myself while I drive. Education is the most important thing in life. And that's exactly what Ajayi was trying to convey to us. Looking at something. Oh man, it really did drop. That's crazy. But anyways. Fuck. Oh man. Right. The reason I focused on Ajayi's entire book and not just one essay is because I feel like her entire book is what needs to be heard. And that's not just meant for everyone in our class, that should be meant for everyone in the world. It was a great book. There were times it was a little repetitive, but over anything, I learned a lot. She wanted us to look at life completely differently. That's crazy, dog. Alright, so as I was saying, these gender binaries that she used as examples inside of her book are just stereotypes that allow our world to continue the way it is. As soon as we're able to break some of these stereotypes and change them for the better, that's when we'll actually see change in our world. And frankly, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Yeah, she's doing a great job by educating citizens, but the only reason there would be a change in these global issues is if the citizens wanted to do something about it. If they wanted to follow these do's and don'ts and honestly just make a change in the world. Ajayi is known to be a credible author, as well as anything she says proves that fact. The third point I chose was, all I know is you can't represent hate, misogyny, discrimination, and lack of common sense while saying you're acting on behalf of Christ or any other celestial being. Get some decorum about your life space. So at the end of her essay on religion, one thing I remember is in her conclusion, she talked about deities. She talked about different gods and different beings from different religions that many humans do believe in. And she was able to use a repetitive source of simile while also using alliteration. What she said was she used multiple of the same letters at the beginning. So an example would be deities like Deva, or being kind like Buddha, visiting peace like Vishnu, and etc. So she just used many of these points, and it kind of stuck to me. It made me think about how, like, not only is she educating us on the different deities in the world and the different religions, but she's educating us on how we should be respectful of those people, how that these gods were never intended to make a bad source, were never intended to create this sort of hate, when their entire point and their entire creation was based on the peace of our world, the well-being, and destroyer of evil, I guess you could say. I don't know many of the religions myself, but I know that Buddha would be known as nirvana, or finding peace, eternal peace in our world, while gods like Vishnu and Deva, and because I'm Hindu, I do know this, they're known to get rid of evil and bring good to the world. I guess her point in all of this was trying to stop people from using religion in comedy acts or hate, or a lot of it was just based on things we should and shouldn't say in this world, right? But there's also a certain extent to that, whereas some people just don't care, and some people live their life where they have to be very careful about what they say. And I think those type of people are the ones to read her book. One thing that did affect me was when I was reading her book, it stopped me like to think about what I was going to say. Not necessarily in a bad way or in a good way, it just made me overly cautious. Whereas if I was my normal self, I would just be spitting out stuff like normal, like I wouldn't even care. But this book, it brought a bigger depth to the story. Not only that, but her examples showed me that she's not the only person in the world who faces these problems, right? That there are people in our school, there are people like me who go through so many examples in their life and so many problems where they keep continuously learning and learning. Her way of expressing that to the audience makes them aware of these problems, and I guess it's just another way of trying to get to the audience and get them to be overly cautious and think about what they're going to say and be careful and just focus on the good in the world. Right. I was fairly happy on the essays we read. As well as the information that was given to us, we were able to talk about them in class. Go through many of these different sort of how to do many like reading groups together, creating new essays, new responses, using secondary research to support those responses. Damn, I say a lot. Like a lot. In class right now, we're reading a book, or we just finished a play called Disgrace by Ayad Akhtar. In this book alone, there were a lot of problems of Islamophobia, racism, misogyny, just the basic global issues that would occur in our world in the daily life. And they were perfect examples and perfect situations that made me think, that made me overly cautious, and made me think, what would happen if I was in that situation? Would I say those same words Amir said or Jory would say, or would I keep quiet and say nothing? At a certain point, what she was trying to teach us are the do's and don'ts. Clearly, the don'ts would be calling someone the N-word because they are a certain color, calling someone a hijab or a jihadist because they're Muslim. And I think Ajay was right. Her goal of trying to get all of these stereotypes out of our world that were just from the start of the gender binaries, right? Everything originates from one stereotype to another. Boom!